All right. We should probably talk about our episode topics today.
Absolutely.
And we're
So
kind of in that realm of,
so we just did what, triage? Was that the last one that we hit on? So we're now 8, the technical
yes,
curve, mastering AI tools without fear. Is that where we are today?
that's where we are today. Yeah.
So this one's all you, man. You are the AI. For those who are listening, Bodie has done some fairly remarkable things with creating show notes. Things that you've used AI to just to automate the process of creating show notes. So Bodie, I'm going to let you. I want to let you talk this episode. I will dominate the conversation, but I'm going to let this one be you because this is something that you are actually doing, and I want to learn from what you have to say on this.
Yeah. This. I will say that use AI to scratch your itch, right? I don't think how I'm going to set something up makes sense for how somebody else is going to set something up. My own daughter, who is 30 years old, who lived in my house for most of her life, right? Or a good portion of it, she and I are working on her YouTube channel. We do things very, very different. And when I create a tool, if I create a tool, she might think that that's a neat, right? I created a whole tool for making menus for dinners here at home. Now, my daughter doesn't live here, but she was talking about how her and her partner are trying to do this. So I was like, here, take a look at this, see if you like it. And they thought it was neat, but there's only 2 of them, and they really don't need to have something that complicated, right? But it scratches the need for my family. What I do with ChatGPT and Gemini in creating the show notes, that scratches my itch. The biggest thing is being open to learning about how to use these tools, and it's not as hard as you might think. There is a learning curve, but it's not impossible. And I would say that the first step, other than getting the service or signing up for the service, the first step is keeping an open mind, because if something doesn't work, that's okay. You can delete it and try something else that will work. But in general, with the AI stuff, I start with a very simple premise and then I build off of it. So I have a news desk for Kilowatt, and it automatically brings in all of my stories. I use a product called Lovable for that. However, sometimes I need the news desk to do something very specific. Like, I just added the ability for certain people to add news stories outside of me, right? A listener who has I've trusted and given permissions to can add a news story to my news desk. And when I get that news story, it's all based on their email and a bunch of other stuff. When I get that news story, it comes in and it's highlighted that they brought it and it's in a different color. And so I know that it's a user submitted story, right? Or listener submitted story. For that to work the way that I wanted it to, I actually took that into ChatGPT and I said, here's what I want to do. And then I had a little conversation with ChatGPT before it generated the prompt that I used in Lovable. Because every time I use a prompt in Lovable, I use credits, and I only get so many a month. So if I was to just straight up put that into Lovable and then it got it wrong, I run the risk of chewing up a lot of credits, but I also kind of run the risk of messing up something that I've already got that works, and I don't want to do that because that to me that feels very scary, because it works with I don't know, I probably put 20 hours in at this point to creating this news desk app over a period of 3 months. It works so good that it has no business working this good. If I'm being 100% honest, right? If I was to write this myself, I would have gotten 20 hours in and not even 1% as far as I am now with using these AI tools. So the biggest thing is, if you're going to use a product like Codex or Lovable or any of the other AI type tools out there is you want to start with a very simple premise and build off of it. And then from there, you probably want to look at, especially if you're using a lot of, or you're using a service that has credits, you're going to want to look at kind of whiteboarding isn't the right answer or right word. What am I thinking of? You want to
wireframe.
Well, yeah, wireframe outside of the actual app itself that's using the credits until you feel confident that that's the prompt that you want to give. That'll just save yourself a little bit of money and hopefully headache, because if for some reason you screw something up, it's not impossible to change back, but it's not fun.
So, Bodie, if I could I take us back a step? Because I think that there are two fundamental groups of creators in how they will use these AI tools. I think there's folks, and I'll put you into this group. There are the tinkers. There are the folks who are, I'm playing with the AI tool to see what I can do. I'm tinkering around with it. It's like you are deriving a product from something. I'm just going to play around and see what I can do with this. What am I able to come up with? Oh, here's a problem that I have. I wonder if I could use this AI tool to solve this particular problem that I have. And that is one group. I think that group is a little smaller, but that's definitely one group. The other group are folks who, I have this problem. This person addressed it with this AI tool. I want to do something similar to it. And I think that's where I'm at. I am not the person that's going to be, I'm not the tinkerer to where I'm just playing around in the tools, seeing what I can build. I'm not the vibe coder for vibe coding's sake. What can I come up with? I am, this is a agent that somebody created that does this job. And I want to take that agent. The 80% is done for, I can take 80% of it because it was done specifically for their business, but I can take 80% of it and then I can derive how can I use that in my business. And I think that is probably even a bigger group. So the thing that I would say for folks who are using these AI tools to do work in your business, you have to, you have to either be that tinker to where you want to go figure it out and build the things, or there's a business critical issue that you have discovered in your tool and you've heard that somebody has done something with this tool, or you go and you look and say, hey, has anybody solved this particular problem? And you're now working backwards from a problem, because at the end of the day, I think what a lot of people do is they will spend a lot of time and money tinkering around, building cool stuff that doesn't solve business critical issues. And that's where a lot of people are going wrong with AI. It's like, this is costing me, $30 a month for this tool and $20 a month for this tool and $5 a month for this tool, and I'm spending money on all these tools and I'm not really solving any problems with them. So I would have never sat down to figure out what you have done with building do you have a name for the tool that you built to create your show notes? Have you named it, or it's just?
Oh no, I have two. I have one for this show and I have one for the other show, but it just is Beyond the Post show notes and Kilowatt show notes.
The thing that you created for Kilowatt, that thing is ridiculous. You're talking about how good it is. How good Lovable it shouldn't be this good. You've created that tool to where it's actually showing me, oh wow, this is the possibility of what can be done. So I have wanted to go and then, okay, well, how can I tweak this so it's not looking up EV stuff? How is this looking up just general tech stories? It could be EV, it could be something else. Or how do I tweak this? Or how do I get this thing out of it? So like I said, so I wasn't the Bodie that went out and let me just tinker around and build these things. I was the Rob that said, what Bodie built was freaking awesome. How can I actually repurpose that to work for the Tech John or to work for Daily Tech News Show? And I think that there's a lot of people in this other category to where I'm not the visionary to see what is possible. I saw what you did, so I know it's possible. Now let me rejigger it so it works for my situation.
Okay, so with that, with Lovable, products like Lovable, there's other things out there. Like another person that does a lot of these things is Angela Hollowell. And Angela's actually, she built something that does, like when you do a story, we submit it like in the show notes, like where we got the information from. She built a product that allows you to kind of like show a receipt at the end. So it prints it out like a store receipt, like a CVS receipt if you have a lot of articles. And it's kind of cool, and you can throw that at the end of your Substack or whatever, right? She posted on LinkedIn, I'm trying this out. Would anybody like to try it? And I said, I'd love to. And, we had a little conversation about it. And she's really the one that kind of put me in to that space of, maybe I should try this as well. But she's doing lots of little cool things here and there. She's got lots of little, just maybe it might take $1,500 to pay a programmer to do something, and she does it in like a lunch break. She's not to say, because I have programmer friends, so I want to be careful here. But she does it in a lunch break to put this out, and it's like she has like one of the things that I just saw was like a woman's outdoor, I think it's women of color outdoor activities, like these women's groups in North Carolina and in that part of the world, right? And it's just got a list of all these activities that are going on, if that you could take part of. And that, I don't know how long it took her, but I'm going to guess it took her like an hour to put that all together. And then she just puts that out into the world, and people can go and learn more about what's going on in their community.
Yeah, I'll shout out someone, Sarah Lane from Daily Tech News Show,
Sarah,
and Live With It. We actually talked about this on, I want to say DTNS Live. It was either last week or the week before last, where Sarah has actually used, she vibe coded SarahLane.com website. So I'm sitting here looking at her website right now, and Sarah is not a web developer. She said that when you looked at the old SarahLane.com, it literally was a website that she bought a domain name and had her name on it and links to various stuff. Now you go and you look at SarahLane.com. This is a actual vibe coded website that that she picked a tool and just said, okay, I'm going to figure it out. And I believe that her website is on Squarespace. So this isn't Squarespace's engine that did this. This is like she actually used a tool that created the new SarahLane.com and re-uploaded it to Squarespace, and this is what you got. And I think that this is pretty cool. So vibe coding is definitely a thing, and I think that there is a bit of a learning curve, but it is not. You're not learning how to code. You're learning how to talk to a bot that can interpret what you're saying and make code from it. And I think that a lot of people are scared of that because I'm not technical. Sarah will tell you she is not tech. She's technical in the sense that she knows how to get to where she got here, but she is not a web developer technical. She's worked. She can look at CSS and kind of figure out what's going on. Her words, not mine. But she's not a coder. So this was something that she was able literally to have a conversation with. I'm sorry, I cannot remember which system she used for this. I'm sorry, Codex. I think you're right. And this is a nice landing page for someone, with a website. I'm thinking maybe I need to go do something like this. And I'm a web developer. This is somebody who I have built a job that I used to have was building websites for people. So I just think that this is pretty cool that she was able to literally talk to a bot, and this is what came up with. And she said she spent a few hours over a few days going back and forth to derive at this.
I think I listened to that episode, and I think being able to connect tools like Codex or Perplexity or Claude to things that you're already using is a game changer. So one of the other things with Riverside, and I signed up to be a beta tester for this or early access, is you can connect ChatGPT to Riverside. Now, do I want to connect ChatGPT to my banking? Because I got a message that said, "Do you want to connect ChatGPT to your banking?" That's an absolute no. But Riverside is not the end of the world, I would love to be able to go in, because Riverside it's just a mess when you go into the projects folder. If you have any number of recordings like you and I do, trying to find something specific is a pain in the butt. But being able to go into ChatGPT and it was like, hey, when did Rob and I talk about season 5, episodes 1 through 3? And have it go through and find that would be really big for me. That's like the main reason why I would want something like that. But being able to connect these tools to things that are maybe, let's just say SarahLane.com maybe might not be mission critical, but is important for her brand and for her business. So she doesn't want to mess that up, obviously. But in the end, if something bad did happen, it's not the end of the world. She can take the time to kind of revert back to where she was before, or she could just build something new. She already built the first one, so she has that ability. Yeah, so that's kind of the thing with the biggest thing with AI is no matter how you're using it, it shouldn't be the laziest way. It shouldn't be like, summarize this for me. And I mean, that's fine, but it may not necessarily help you in ways of being productive, because you're going to want to present something in your own voice. But if you're really using it and you're a single creator, it should be something that helps you move your business forward. Just like the news desk. This is something that I can use. I can give people the ability to submit stories who, like, I have one person who, like, I have 15 or 20 every month stories that they submit to my email. And then I have to go and I have to sort it and put it somewhere and decide whether or not, or where I'm going to use it, if I'm going to use it. Having the ability to just give them a link that they could submit and it goes in and I could see that it was them that submitted it. I mean, that takes, I don't know, saves me 20 minutes a month, maybe 30 minutes a month. Because, I got to go in and read it and then sort it and, reply back to him and all the other stuff that goes with that. Whereas he can just submit it directly to the show.
Yeah, and it's like, you're saying 20 minutes a month. And it's like, well, that's not, you don't need to automate something that saves you 20 minutes a month. But what if, it wasn't 20 minutes? What if it was 200 minutes? Here's the thing. How long did it take you to create the submission form? If that only took you 20 minutes, now it takes you no more time to do this. It's like, it's an infinite gain after that.
Rob, at 8:59, I was resetting my son's phone because he's having some issues with it. At that point in time, when you texted me, I hit submit. So I wrote the prompt in about 2 minutes through OpenAI, through ChatGPT. Wrote the prompt, which took me about 2 minutes to make sure it was right. Submitted it. It took about 2 minutes for it to update, including updating the actual website. And then it took me another, 5 or 6 minutes while we were just waiting to connect to test it. And it worked. Like that's how short of a time that took.
So, I am a fan of systematizing things. Absolutely. I'm not a fan of this thing took you 5 minutes to do every month, but it took you 15 hours to create the automation for it. That's diminishing gains at that point. That was a fun project. That wasn't a productive project. But you said it took you 20 minutes to do this thing and it saves you 20 minutes a month. So that means that, you spent 20 minutes. So this month, if you spent the 20 minutes answering the email and you spent 20 minutes creating a tool that will now do it for you, but you now have 20 minutes for every single month going forward. Less the amount of time you spend updating it, adding more things to it, making it do more things, ultimately is going to save you time. So it's I am not one of these super gung-ho, everything's got to be AI, because I think that, I do think about the environment. Bodie, they built a Google data center on 23, State Route 23 on the south side of Columbus. And the last time I drove past it, at 60 miles an hour, it probably takes you a good 40 seconds to pass the entire thing. And it's a humongous complex as you're driving past it. And it's just like water tower, water tower, water tower, water tower. These water towers are not small. These are like the size of water towers that you would see like in a small municipality of like you get like a small town of 500 people and they need to protect their water supply. These are what these things are at this Google data center. And it's like just water tower. And it's dozens. I didn't count how many there were, but there were definitely dozens of them there. And sometimes doing trivial stuff causes that water to get burned up. So I am somewhat concerned about the resources that trivial stuff does. But on the other hand, AI is useful. And if you can use it to save yourself some time in your business, if you can, I'm not big on displacing people, but if you were never going to get the people in the first place to do the thing and AI can actually help you do a thing that you were not going to pay somebody to do, by all means, go ahead and help yourself out now.
Yeah, I mean, the tools that I build are not going to be marketable outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way it is. So in order for me to get through that, in order for me to pay somebody to do that, it would just never happen. So I would be kludging a bunch of tools together that weren't designed to use it the way that I want to use it,
mm-hmm.
or I could build something in AI. And I agree with you. Like, there are times when, I uploaded a picture of my lemon tree this weekend, and I did have the thought of, is this a necessary ask of ChatGPT? Because there's an environmental impact. You're absolutely correct. And ultimately, I was like, this lemon tree is getting pretty bad, and it's hot, and I don't have the answer, and I can't find the answer. So, but yeah, I don't know if you saw this, but I switched some things around, so I think it makes more sense. But that would be the AI stuff. What I switched around is I moved stop announcing, start promoting to the end, because I think that rolls into season 6 better.
Okay.
And the production workflow, I moved that in front of the AI because it makes more sense to start talking about how production workflow works or how to develop one before getting into the AI stuff. Because if you don't have a good production workflow in place, you may just be wasting your time with tools and stuff because you don't really know what you need to solve until you start with your workflow.
So are we going to talk about production workflow right now, or is that the next episode?
Yeah, let's if we can wrap this up in like less than 14 minutes, because I do have a client at 11.
Okay.
But
so
yeah,
production workflows for the solo creator with 0 staff. This, Bodie. I am a huge fan of Google Sheets for creating a rundown document. I use it for my solo shows. I use it for Daily Tech News Show. I use it for the Tech John. We've used it before for, previous seasons of Beyond the Post. I'm a huge fan of just being able to see your show scripted out. I have personally done shows that have been fully scripted to shows that are, if you think about SMR podcast, even though that show is on long-term hiatus, we haven't done a show since I don't think April of last year. But that show is about as off the cuff as you could imagine. And even with that show, we had a document that we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about this. There was nothing more, but we at least knew the things that we were going to talk about in the show. Each of us had picks, like a tech pick of the week that we would pick for every episode. That would be in the show. And so what I'm saying here is that I am a huge fan of run of show. I'm a huge fan of a rundown document, something that is going to walk you through, just everything that happens in your show. So for me, I'm pretty anal about it. Literally everything that is going to be done in the show, not necessarily said, but everything that's going to be done, every single transition, there's a line in the spreadsheet for that transition. And it just gives me the visual ability to just glance off camera, look at my rundown document and see where I am in the show so that I can make sure that anything that I want to get in the show is in that document. And I know that I need to bring it up at this point and it's got timing. And we're starting off here for the solo creator. I am a huge fan of that. I do this on my solo show. So when I recorded Daily Tech Headlines yesterday, when I record it tomorrow, there will be a rundown document that has here's story 1, here's story 2, here's story 3, here's story 4. And I even have how much time it's going to take me to talk about each one of these individual stories because I'm trying to get that show done in about 5 to 6 minutes. So I'm a big fan of, the number one tool that we would use for a production workflow is we would call a run of show document. I like Google Sheets for it. You could do it in a Word document. You can do it in actual rundown software that they have out there. You can do it, in a PDF. You just need to make sure that you're writing down the transition breaks for each part of your show.
Yeah, I would expand that out even further, right? If you are somebody who is new to this, so this seems that you talk about, Rob, you talk about doing this for so long that some of this stuff just seems like a natural, right? You got to have a podcast host, you got to have a DAW to record in, or some sort of software like what we're using here at Riverside to record in. Write down your whole production workflow. I'm going to record in what's the program you record in that's free? Audacity?
Audacity.
Yeah. So I'm going to record in Audacity. These are where I'm going to get my news sources. These are when I'm going to get write out a whole thing, because this can all seem very overwhelming in the beginning. Like when I would, in the very beginning of my podcasting, careers, and maybe not the best way to put it, but the journey, like I would get so nervous about planning a show because it was like, where did I get this from? Where did I do this? I didn't have a system set up yet. And because I didn't have a system set up yet, there was a little bit of paralysis or even like avoiding it because I knew I had to do it. And it just felt like this overwhelming task. So knowing if you're doing a news show, knowing where you're going to get your news stories. If you're doing an informational show, where are you getting your information? All that stuff, write that down. Like, this is where I get my stuff. These are my sources. And then from here, you're like Rob said, you're going to write a show rundown for the show, and then I'm going to post it into Acast, for instance, or some other podcasting type place, or YouTube or whatever. And then this is how I'm going to, submit my social media clips. And this is where I'm going to put it into my Substack or whatever newsletter, and so on and so forth down the line. And this is how people are going to contact me, and all that stuff. It seems maybe a little bit of overkill, but in the beginning, having that in place so that you don't forget something, or that you have an actual, like, you feel accomplished by, like, okay, check mark on this section, check mark on that section, and you just kind of work your way down, just like a pilot does with a pre-flight check.
You are absolutely right. So I was just talking about the actual creation of the show with the rundown document. You're talking about an entire standard operating procedure for how you run the workflow of your show. So you are absolutely right. I think about, like, on one of my big podcasting days, like a big podcasting day for me is Monday. Every Monday I have at least 3 shows. So the first show is Daily Tech Headlines. And so I need to know what's going on. So, like, there are things that I do that, I have Feedly set up. Feedly is is basically an RSS tool that you can go out and you subscribe to various websites. I know that Reuters Technology has technology news in it every single day. I know that Bloomberg Technology has Bloomberg Technology news in it every single day. I know that CNET News has CNET News about technology every single day. So there are 30, 40 different websites that I know that I get good news content from. CNBC, TechCrunch, TechMeme, which actually is an aggregator within itself. There are numerous websites where I am scouring the web to get just content for what I'm going to talk about in my profession as a technology reporter for for Daily Tech News Show and in the Tech John and other shows that I talk about tech on. So just that. Like, I remember when I first started, because I've been a contributor for Daily Tech News Show for years, but when I actually became a host, and I'm going through things with Tom Merritt on, dude, where do we get all the news? Like, he showed me, here's a DTNS Feedly feed. that, you know, he shared with me that he is constantly putting articles in, tagging articles, putting them here. I've created my own process. I'm a big fan of, you know, I think we've talked about this on the show before, but I am a second brain builder. I actually use digital notes extensively in my day to day. So I use a tool called Readwise Reader, where if I'm listening to a podcast, if I am reading a news article, you know, online, if I'm looking at an email newsletter, if I'm looking at social media, very quickly I can get that information into my Read It Later app so that I don't have to read it in real time. It's just like, here's something that interests me, tag it, so that when I go and I have my scheduled time to go through my feeds, I can see here are the 20, 30, 40 different news articles that I thought were interesting enough to at least flag. And in my scheduled time where I will go through and now read these articles, understand them, look for supporting articles to, you know, to come up with my premise for what I'm going to discuss. Sometimes it's just reporting the news. I don't have to have a premise. Sometimes it is I'm opining, you know, I am commentating on here's what I think about the news. So I need to go find multiple articles to do this. I have a whole process for how I do that inside of these tools like Reader, you know, Readwise, Feedly, TechMeme, TechCrunch, and many, many, many others, to where it just makes it easy to get all of that content very, very quickly. So I don't have to go out and look for it. It's sitting there waiting for me when I get up in the morning and log in and go to these various sites.
That is such a big benefit. I remember when Google, what was Google's news site?
Google News.
Google News. No, not the news, but the RSS aggregator.
Google Reader.
They shut down. Yeah, when they shut
Google
that,
Reader. Yeah.
When they shut that down, or when they started it, I remember thinking to myself, why would anybody want this? And then as soon as I started getting into content creation, I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. And then they shut it down.
Google will kill a service at a heartbeat. If people aren't using it, man, they will whack it. But yes, Google Reader I used Google Reader before I used Feedly. It was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, and it, like there is real benefit in that. And there's real benefit in being able to see an article or see somebody on a podcast that might fit what you're doing, and being able to like write that down of like, hey, this is a person that I want to reach out to. And then even then with, I don't know how you handle interviews, Rob, but I have a separate document of, actually I have a potential interviews list in my email. So if I send somebody an email asking if they would like to be on the show, I'll throw that into a potential interview list so that I can go back and check it. I also have a document that when somebody agrees to come on, like one day before, I'm going to send them a reminder with all the information. As soon as it's booked, I'm going to send them this information with this checklist to make sure that they're ready, and all of these things, and kind of follow up with them throughout. You know, I'm going to be on the Car Stuff podcast in a week, on next Monday. And that they're the ones that invited me on the show, right? But I also want to make sure that I'm walking into the interview prepared. So I hadn't received anything from them yet, so I just reached out to them. Like these kind of things, having that in your workflow and knowing that, you know, how to best be prepared for your show or being on somebody else's show. You don't want that kind of thing to slip through the cracks. Mm-hmm. And then for whatever reason, when you get on a show, you're asked a question and you're like, you know, it's not a great feeling. I've had it happen multiple times. It's not something I ever want to repeat. So having those workflows in place helps you be more prepared, not only for your show, but to be on other shows. And that's one of the best ways to promote your
Bodie,
show.
One of the things that I actually do and have is that, you know, I have a Rodecaster mixer that I have here that I create backup recordings on. Even though I'm recording in the cloud, I just always have a backup recording, because if the cloud fails, I at least have a local recording of whatever it was that I was saying, you know, right here on my device that I can get to. But one of the reasons why I still use this, because the cloud services are pretty good. They don't fail regularly. Today is a special day for us that we actually had a failure on one, but it's fairly rare that they fail. But just the clicking of the record button on my mixer reminds me to make sure that I've clicked the record button in my recording software in the cloud. And this is something that I document. On my rundown, I have a checkbox for click backup recording, because I start the backup recording first and then start the cloud recording. I actually have checkboxes for that. Why do I have checkboxes for that? Bodie, I've probably in my career recorded somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,300 to 3,500 podcast episodes. There's more than once that I forgot to click record. So I did an entire episode with someone else and never recorded it. That has happened multiple times. It hasn't happened 5 times, but it's happened at least 2 or 3. And there's nothing you can do to recover that because you never clicked record. So I've made it a part of my standard operating procedure that before I move on, and when I am responsible for recording of the show, there's a checkbox that I have to check off before my Google Sheet opens up to the additional things. Did you start your backup recording? Did you actually start your recording?
100%. And that Allison Sheridan has saved me multiple times because for whatever reason with her specifically, when she says, "Do you want me to record this?" and I say no, that'll be fine.
She still does.
She still does. I've had to go to her more than once. Once with Chris Ashley also. I had to go to her more than once and be like, do you have that? Because at some point in time, Chris's audio dropped out or I don't know what happened. I had to piece a bunch of stuff together. So yeah, 100%. Hey, Rob, the last thing is stop announcing, start promoting. We've talked about that a number of times. I don't know that we need to go over it again. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 3 episodes that we did on prepping for season 5. I'm going to run that the transcripts through AI and put together like a framework for the show. And then from there, we'll be able to start recording. I think we're at that spot. Maybe one more planning session, and then I think we're at the spot to start recording. What do you think?
Sounds like a plan, man. I'm excited because we have done more prep work for season 6 or season 5 rather than we have ever. We've done more prep for this season, I think, than seasons 1 through 4 combined.
Yeah,
and it's not like season 1 through 4 there was anything wrong with them, but no, we really have sat down and planned out. Here is what we're going to talk about, and just us talking about what we're talking about is good content. So I can't wait until we get to the actual creation of the content.
Same. And then, season 6 even is already kind of tooled out. So we're already to a point where, when we do our next season in between, it shouldn't be quite as long, simply because we've got all this kind of already a trajectory, and then we can kind of see where we want to go in season 7 and beyond. Yes,
our seasons aren't necessarily for, significant weeks of hiatus in between them. There is that, we both got other stuff going on, so there's part of that. But it's just like it was a logical break it made sense to let's talk about this other stuff in another season, and that's kind of so our seasons are as much procedural as they are time based as well.
100%. All right, everybody, we're looking forward to showing off season 5, and I hope everybody got something out of the behind the scenes stuff that Rob and I did for putting this whole thing together.
All right, folks, we will talk to you next time.